Hey everyone, Piano Man Chuck here, and I'm here today with the Dexibell Vivo S7 88 key. Very impressive piano, pretty unique. And this is probably the least important as far as technical goes, as far as being unique. But these side panels here, they come in different colors, and you can order different colors, so you can interchange them with this one's white, but you can get them in red, green, yellow, or blue. All right, so depending on what color you want. But more importantly, they have extra long samples here, the longest in the industry. They call them double XL. All right, and they also call them holographic. They're the standard industry length of a sample is like 1 to 5 seconds, maybe even 7. This one goes way beyond that. So if I'm holding down a key, especially in the lower notes, the sample length is 15 seconds. So you go beyond 15 seconds, that's when you go into looping. But you go to a different manufacturer of pianos, and you're going to hear looping probably after 3 seconds, maybe 5 seconds, and if you're lucky, maybe after 7 seconds. But this one is 15 seconds. So they're all longer sampled, but the lower ones are 15 seconds. So that's something that really hasn't been done, not in that kind of length for a sample. Here's the big thing that sets this apart. They are using super fast CPUs in here. The processors in here are so fast, they are capable of handling 320 oscillators. Now what that means to you, what that translates to, is an unheard of unlimited polyphony. So you got these other manufacturers out there that are boasting 128 note polyphony, 256 note polyphony. This one's virtually unlimited. With the super fast processors and 320 oscillators, they can get away with doing that. Unheard of. And it makes a difference. Because you have a processor that's so fast, they've also developed another kind of technology that they call T2L, which stands for True to Life. Now, with True to Life, you can basically add modeling to it, analog modeling they call it. So the things that make a piano unique, like string resonance and hammer noise and all these other things that, you know, some of them other manufacturers have as well. This one's a little different because the processors are so fast, they actually react to the way you're playing. And they make split-second decisions on how you're playing, and they add that modeling to what you're playing, so it makes it sound so much like you're really playing on an acoustic piano. They've done some tests, and you can go to their website where you can compare what this sounds like with some of the virtual or software instruments, because some people are saying, oh, virtual or software instruments are so much better than hardware. Go to their webpage, dexibell.com. Go to the news and blog section, and you'll hear some of that comparisons against some of the popular virtual pianos out there. You're going to be amazed. Now, for the DAC, or digital audio converter, that's another area that they excel at. Now, CD quality, which is what you're going to get with most of the keyboards, is 44.1 kilohertz with 16-bit sample size, 16-bit rate. Now, Dexibell uses 48 kilohertz, and they're using 24-bit depth. Now, the difference between 16 and 24-bit is phenomenal. With 16-bit, you can express up to 65,536 different levels of depth. That's pretty impressive. But when you go to 24-bit from 16, that's a 256 time increase. It's just amazing. Now, so far I'm rattling off numbers and specs, but it really does translate to this. I recall seeing a video somewhere where Dexibell held this experiment where they're comparing their Dexibell Vivo pianos with acoustic pianos. And I guess some people were having a hard time telling the difference as to which was which. But anyway, on with more that makes this unique. That T2L thing, they used it in a whole bunch of different samples here. And depending on what you're playing, whether it's piano or organ or strings or guitar, you have a whole bunch of different T2L parameters that you can adjust depending on what instrument you're playing. And I'll get into that in a little bit later in this video. Now, the other thing is, the Dexibell digital pianos are first and foremost pianos. All right, yeah, they got some other stuff here. They've got organs and strings and pads and choirs and synths and brass and guitar and bass and all that stuff. But it is first and foremost a piano. And while some of the other samples of some of the other instruments are actually pretty good, some samples like the guitar and bass, they're okay, but could be better. And again, that's due to the fact that this is basically a piano. The focus is on piano. All the other instruments in there, that's gravy, and some of them are really to die for. Alright, so let's start getting into this. This is the full 88 key version, the Dexibell S7, and it weighs 17.5 kilograms, which translates to 38.5 pounds, which is acceptable for something this size. Again, you can go down to the S3 and it'll weigh a lot less, of course. Alright, now the design on this is really beautiful. The design on this reminds me of a cell phone, smartphone. When you first get it, it looks so nice. But then again, you're going to throw a cover on it and that hides the looks. Well, since you're not keeping this in your pocket or transporting it all over the place, you don't need a cover. So the looks here, it's absolutely beautiful, and it reminds me of the looks on my cell phone. It's got the same color scheme, the shiny everything. I like that. Now, this one, the S7 and the S3, happens to be a stage piano, and it's also a 4-zone master MIDI controller. So it's perfect for the gigging musician who is also controlling other digital instruments. Now it's Bluetooth capable, so you can stream over to this and it'll play whatever you're streaming over with Bluetooth from your iPod or your smartphone or your tablet or whatever. Okay. It also has Wi-Fi capabilities, but that's not unleashed yet. It is in there, and it's there for future versions. So it'll be interesting to see what Dexibell is going to do with the Wi-Fi capability once they release that. Now, it also has a recorder section, so you could record what you're playing. And not only can you record, you can also overdub, so you can create songs basically from scratch. I mean, if you're so inclined, but you could do that with this. Really nice feature. Now there's 72 built-in sounds and 9 user sounds that you could add to this. And that's another thing that makes this unique, is this can use sound font files, sound font 2 files. So while this is not a sampling piano like the Nords are, it's the next best thing, because there's a lot of sound font files out there that you can load into this. And in fact, if you go to the Dexibell website, they have a few samples already and they're adding to it. So if you're looking for a particular kind of organ that's not there, or something else that's not built into here, or sound effects, basically you do a Google search on the sound effect you're looking for with sound font technology, download that, put it on a USB thumb drive, put that here, and you can load that into one of the 9 user memory slots here. So you get more instruments than is built into here. That's pretty cool. And like anything else, you know, it's got splits, it's got layers. So you can split the keyboard, you know, so you have something down here below. Yeah, see, down here on the top I've got a Vivo Grand Piano. And on the bottom it's showing me I've got a Space Fox. How that got in there must be left over from when I was playing around. But if I go over here to the bottom and I want to change that, and let's say I want to put a bass guitar here with ride. Alright, so I can choose any combination of two different sound sources that I want for the top and the bottom, and that's how I do a split. Now if I go to a layer instead, you can see that it changed to layers. Now let me show you something over here. You can see the split. If you see this right here, I don't know how clear it is, you see a keyboard here and a keyboard here. That indicates you're in split mode. Something down here at the lower, something up here in the upper. And if I hit layer, you see two keyboards, meaning I've got two different sounds layered together. Right now, this is a grand on and a warm pad. Now it goes beyond that. So if I press split and layer at the same time, you can see now I've got two keyboards here like this and another like that, which means the top half of the keyboard is layered and the bottom half has its own sound. And you can change whatever you want, but here's a layer and you can hear it. You got a grand piano and a pad, and down here you got a bass and ride. And of course, when you get into this thing, you can adjust the levels of all three of these things. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I haven't really seen that in too many other pianos. All right. Now, reverb is so important to a lot of people. The reverb has its own key right here. You press it. Now, you've got 24 different types of reverbs, and not only that, you can actually change the parameters of each and every one of them, whatever one you want. But right now this is just showing you, they're showing main, coupled, and lower. Main being the main sound, coupled is when you have two sounds, and lower is just the other half. So you're going to see that a lot over here. So you can adjust that reverb level here. But if you go further to the type. So right now it's set for room, and there's more to the left of room and more to the right. 24 altogether. Chamber, cave, arena, cathedral, large hall. I like large hall. Maybe I want a little bit more reverb in that large hall. So here's where I adjust that. Now, over here you'll notice you've got the screen and you've got these navigation keys for up, down, left, right. And since you're seeing this in its own section, you think that that's all there is. So there's this knob, this level knob, in this section to the left of it, where you don't have to use these arrow keys. You can use the knob to quickly adjust the level right here. Okay. Now again, this large hall got level, damp, room size, and width, and pre-delay, and that's it for that. Okay. But again, large hall, that's just one of the types of reverb. Concert hall, And again, that doesn't sound like I want more. All right, damp, room size, width, pre-delay. They're available for whatever type of delay that you try to pick and adjust. Mid-size hall, dark hall, hall. All right, and going back to the right, got some interesting things. You got venue, you've got ambiance, you've got wooden room, you've got a brick room, studio booth, small room, living room, office, warehouse, music club, plate, small spring, bright spring, amp spring, and that's it. All right, so let's go back to large hall. That's about where I like it. So you've got a lot of control over the reverb, and you've got so much, 24 different types of reverb. Most have room, hall, plate, and maybe cathedral, maybe a large hall, and you're done. And a lot of other keyboards out there just have a switch for reverb on or off. This gives you complete control over reverb, and I really love that about this keyboard, because reverb is one of the most important things to me as a pianist. Okay, so let's exit out of that, and again, you can adjust the levels of the main keyboard sound, or coupled for layers, or just the lower. All right, so, and that took a little while to figure out what those terminology meant, but that's what it means. All right, so let's exit out of that. The other key next to that for zones, so if you're into using this as a MIDI controller, you press the zone key, and you've got zones 1 through 4. Right now you'll see 1 is highlighted. I can go to 2 or 3 or 4. So whatever I pick, let's say 2, it's on right now. I can turn it off. I can turn it on. If I press edit, I've got a whole bunch of parameters here that I can edit. Off, the channel that the MIDI channel that I want to transmit or receive on, the octave, you can change octave, transpose, note high, note low, meaning, let's say I want the high note to be this and the low note to be this, that's going to be my zone 2. All right, in zone 3, I'll set another set of high or low, and I can even actually have them overlap as well. And then for continuous controllers, 00 and 32, and PC, and level, and pan pot, and PC send, bender, modulation, foot switch, damper, expression, control 1, control 2, 3, and 4, CC or continuous controller assignment 1, value 1, assign 2, value 2, assign 3, value 3, assign 4, and value 4. So that's a lot that you can get into with your zones. So that's what makes this a master MIDI controller. You can do that with any of the 4 zones. All right. Now, very interesting. I told you about T2L or True to Life. And you can hit edit over here. Right now, I've got a Vivo grand piano. And if I hit this T2L edit, the things that I was talking about where it models after the analog piano, and it analyzes your playing on the fly, and it applies these parameters to it. Here's what you can go ahead and modify as far as these parameters. Hammer noise, you can have it off, you can increase it, whatever. Key off noise, damper noise, string resonance. We all know about string resonance. Basically, if I hold down C, E, G, C, so I got a C chord. If I hit something up here that's a cousin or a harmonic, another E, G, and C, you hear that resonance, just like you would on an acoustic piano. how much of that resonance is controlled with this parameter right here. So if I boost this up to like 20, see how much of that there is? And if I bring it down to, let's say, like -6, not that much. So that's a cool thing right there. And the rest of them are like that too. You've got damper resonance, and that's it for that. Now, the cool thing is, whatever instrument that you've got chosen, like organ, jazz organ, blues organ, let's go with jazz organ. Okay? So this is the main T2L or true to life edit for the jazz organ. Click sounds, I can turn it on or off. Click off. Percussion. Now that's it for the organ. But if I'm going to something like a guitar, and let's say I want a here I picked a picked bass guitar, and I can adjust the attack, the hold, the decay, the sustain, the release, and I can do that for the lower or the coupled. Right now I'm doing it for main. So this is all really cool stuff. Now you have user memories up here. You can choose up to 81 different memories to store your changes to. So you pick a sound you want or an instrument, you make the changes you want using that T2L stuff, and basically you can save it to one of the 81 different user memories. So that is really cool too. Now let me go through something over here. You'll notice these different sections here. This first section is broken up into 3 sections: audio effects, output, and player. Now the audio effects has your 3-band equalizer or EQ, and you just turn the master EQ on, and what's really cool is you start to adjust and you see this screen right here, and it shows you what you're doing. So if I want to change the low gain or the bass register here, you got a visual here to see what you're doing. And if I want to change the high gain, you got a visual here. And if I want to change the mids, you'll see there's 2 mid sections here for sweepable mid-range. So you can choose the frequency, basically, that you want to start with, and then you can change from there. All right, now you can go ahead and turn this on, and you've got a different kind of level here for how much of the EQ you want to send. Alright, now down here, when you're using this as a MIDI controller, you press this and the master EQ goes off, because now these 4 knobs become zone control knobs for output. Okay? And if you're going to use this a local off, you know, a lot of people, they want to play, but they don't want to hear it coming from the sound generator it's built in. You just go ahead and hit mute, and that's the same thing as local off. Alright, very cool. And let me mention a couple other things. The user manual that comes with this, I guess it was originally written in Italian, and they've got to translate it to other languages. This is the English one here. Now, while the grammar is not all that great, the explanations behind this is a little bit more thorough and a little bit more easier to understand than some of the other manufacturers that put out user manuals. So that's a plus for them right there. Now, besides the keyboard and the power supply that comes with this, and the manual, also has a music stand. Okay, now the music stand simply goes in right there. Now, I put a cell phone over here with like a set list here or some notes, and I thought, oh, this is going to vibrate off as I play. But no, it actually did pretty good. So I'm impressed with that. Now, as far as the display here, this is a 128 by 64 pixel high contrast organic LED. And what this translates to in size, it's kind of small, but it really conveys everything you really need to see here despite its small size. It's about 2¼ inches by 1¼ inches, but it does the job, so I'm not complaining about that there. Now, the back panel. The back panel, let's go ahead and look at what's there. You got your DC input, so you've got the adapter that's supplied with this. One end plugs into the AC mains, and then there's a little box or a brick that sits right there and converts that from 110 or 220, depending on where you're from in the world, to 24 volts DC, and that plugs into the back here. So that's where you get your power from. All right, next to that, you've got your 1/4 inch standard outputs. You've got left and right. If you only hook in the left, you know, just like a standard, you've got mono. If you hook both, you've got stereo. Okay, and that's going to go to your mixer or your amplifier or wherever that's going to go to. Now, pedals. You got 3 different pedal jacks here. The first one is for your damper pedal, and that accepts half damper stuff. So I've got a half damper, actually got 2 half damper pedals. I've got a Korg and I've got a Kawai, and neither of them work with this. The Roland works because it's a reverse polarity of the Korg and the Kawai. Now, this is a bit of a design flaw or an omittance or whatever. You cannot change the polarity through the menus here. So you're stuck using a Roland. So I'm hoping that you're going to change that in the future so that you can choose the polarity. Because if you've only got a Kawai or a Korg pedal like I have, you're going to have to spend some money and buy a Roland pedal. All right, so that's a little strike against them right there. Not a deal breaker, but that should have been thought through a little bit more. Now, you've got your foot switch, which is next to that, so you can set that up to switch whatever you want. And next to that, you've got input for an expression control pedal. So, very important to have that. Next to that, you've got 3 standard MIDI jacks, and that's your 5-pin DIN MIDI jacks. MIDI in, MIDI through, MIDI out. They have that through, so that's nice. But if you're not using MIDI, you probably won't even know what through is about. So don't worry about it. It's just good to have that. And you've got 2 types of USB connections here, USB-A and USB-B. So what those are good for, one of them is you can take a USB cord and hook it up to your computer. So you have MIDI over USB, that kind of thing. And the other one is so that you can take a thumb drive and hook it in to that USB port over there. And on the front panel here, you've got some more jacks. You've got 3 jacks here. You have got 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch stereo headphone jacks. So whatever type of headphone you have, where it has the 1/4 inch stereo or the 1/8 inch mini plug type stereo, it handles them both. So, and above that, there's also an 1/8 inch mini jack stereo for audio in. So you can take your MP3 player, your iPod, whatever, and feed a music source so that you can play along with it and maybe record yourself. So that's basically it. But getting back to the sections here, and I touched on the audio part and the outputs, and then the player here. This is interesting. The player includes the recorder so that you can record yourself play and playback and overdub, And I mean, that's a whole new section here, you know, beyond the scope of this video. 2 assignable switches, so you can have that do whatever you want. And transpose, real important. So to a lot of people, if you are the pianist and you've got a singer, you know something in the key of C and she wants it in the key of D, well, here's where your transpose comes in. You hit that and you go ahead and go up 2 notes. So now when you play a C or any other note, it's up 2 notes. This is actually a D now. And it lights up to let you know that you're in transpose mode. When you go back to 0, you can turn it off. Okay. Now, for chord, it has chord enhancement. Now, this is really a unique feature here. They got something here called freeze. So if I'm playing a C chord and I hit freeze, now I can play the same chord with 1 finger. It gets better because if I want to play the same chord in a different key, now, even if you are a seasoned player, try doing this. Try doing that, forming the chords with your own hands. Alright? So that's cool. And when you turn it off, you're back to a normal keyboard. You turn it back on, it remembers that chord that you had unless you want to change it again. So that's something that's really cool. And these wheels over here, pitch, bend, and modulation, this is a cool thing to have. I mean, most professional keyboards have this, and most have it right here above the leftmost notes. This is moved over a little bit, so it probably won't make a difference here to you. All right. Next section, as you may have surmised, this is the main control area over here. This is where everything happens, and basically I showed you the reverb, I showed you zone control, I showed you the true to life edit, and you can see there's a little USB symbol that came up showing you a picture of a thumb drive. That's because I have one that's already installed. Okay, then you've got your sound and memory section here, but let me get a little bit more into this, because if I hit menu, this is where I can control a lot of stuff. There's submenus for each one of these, but for the main categories, setting, T2L editor, which is the same thing as hitting the T2L I showed you, effects, control, tuning, memory, USB remove to make sure that you're safely removing your USB thumb drive, audio input, Bluetooth, MIDI, global, sound library, factory reset, and version info. So we get back up to the top and we go over here for settings. These are all the different settings. Main settings, we'll have another submenu for that, and all these different parameters. And let's go back. That's the main setting. You have lower setting and coupled settings. So it's going to be the same thing, but for the different parts of the keyboard, depending on what you have chosen. Zone 1 setting, 2, 3, and 4, and each zone has these settings. Switch it on or off, what channel, what octave, transpose, note low, note high to define the range. Continuous controller 0 and 32 and PC, and level and pan pot and PC send and bender and modulation wheels and foot switch, turning all these things on or off, damper, expression, control 1, 2, 3, 4, continuous controller assign 1 and value 1, continuous controller assign 2 and value 2, 3 and value 3, 4 and value 4. So that's quite a bit right there. Keyboard touch, this is an important one because a lot of people will sit down and they may not like how it's reacting to your touch. So you've got like a few different levels here. So I go into keyboard touch. I have this set on extra light. That's light plus plus. So I don't really have to play very hard to get where I want. I can make it a little heavier with light plus. I can just make it light, or I can make it heavy or I can make it heavy plus. So I've got to hit harder to get the same result as when I had on the lighter setting. And fixed. Everything, no matter how hard or how low, gives me the same kind of result. All right? And you can adjust what kind of level you want for the heavy too. Let's go back to light because that's what I like. Octave, you can change that, transpose, split mode, and so on and so forth. Okay. T2L editor, we went through that already. Effects. Now here's the kind of effects that you have here. Reverb, we already went through this, but let's start over at the beginning here. Type through, EP tremolo, electric piano tremolo, equalizer, vibrato, flanger, chorus, phaser, reverb, of course, delay, cross delay, triple tap delay, rotary, tremolo, tremolo pan, overdrive, and that's basically it. So you got a lot of effects that you can control over here, and you can set it for lower, coupled, reverb we've already been through, and master EQ we've been through as well. Alright, so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Looks like I got overdrive on right now. I didn't save that, so when I come back to it I get my regular piano. Now in the piano section over here, I've chosen the piano set of sounds, and I've got 9 different variations. This is the Vivo Grand, and it really sounds nice. Well, anyway, if I go to the next one, Pop Grand, Classic Grand, Vivo Upright, Electric Grand, Electric Grand Tremolo, Rock Piano, Ragtime, Honky Tonk, Alright, the next section is electric piano, and you've got a bunch of, that's Dino Stage, next one Suitcase, Phaser electric piano, and so on and so forth. And the next one would be Plucked Percussion, Cool Clav, Groovy Clav, funky vibraphone, xylophone, marimba, harpsichord, pop harpsichord, organs, jazz organ, blues organ, and of course when you go into that T2L edit, you got blues organ. Here's what we can control: the click on, click off. That's it for that. No matter what instrument you pick, the T2L editor is specific for that particular instrument. Reggae organ, R&B organ, rock organ, maybe rock organ wasn't that good of a choice for that particular song. Gospel, principal, church. And mixture. Strings, slow strings, all kinds of different strings here. Orchestral, dark, pad, so you get the idea here. Synth strings, 80 strings. Then there's pad choirs. And brass synth. Well, anyway, you get the idea. Synth brass, polybrass, Fontabelle, Dexie Heaven, polysynth, super saw, fast synth, and then the guitars, nylon. Steel guitar. Jazz guitar. Overdrive. Acoustic bass. Fingered bass. Pick bass. Acoustic bass and ride, synth bass. And I showed you about splits and layers and the combination of both. Alright, so I went through pretty much an overview of this keyboard, and most of it's been good. In fact, almost all of it's been good. But there are things I don't like about it, and I have to throw that in just to be complete with a review. So here's the things I don't like, and none of them really are deal breakers. Just things that could have been done a little bit different, things that might still be able to be improved with a firmware update or something like that. So here's what I don't like. There's 5 things. The first one is powering on and powering off. When you power this on, it takes 43 seconds from the time you press that power switch to the time that you can play. And it shows a little progress bar. You know, when it gets to the end, you can start playing. 43 seconds it's a long time. But then again, you're using these super fast quad-core processors with 320 oscillators. It's probably loading a whole bunch of stuff, so I guess we can let that slide. But still, 43 seconds. I mean, a Chord Kronos, that's a workstation. It's a computer. So that takes a couple of minutes. I can understand that, but I'm not sure what's going on with the 43 seconds on this one. Powering off takes 9 seconds. Now when you hit that power switch to turn it off, you get a prompt on the screen to confirm that you actually really want to turn it off, which is good and bad. Now, mostly good because there have been times at gigs where I've had digital pianos where I've accidentally hit that power switch and the power went off. And then those same manufacturers went ahead and improved that, and they made it so that if you hold the power switch for like 3 seconds, then it figures you really want to turn it off, and it turns it off. But this one, it wants a confirmation. So, not really a deal breaker, but that's the way it is with this. All right, the next thing, the rear connectors on the back. All right, now a lot of keyboards you'll see what the rear connectors are because they have them labeled right here. You can see what the labels are, and you could just reach back and put a connector in or whatever. Not so on this one. It is labeled, it's labeled right here, but the actual connections are down here and recessed. Now that makes it hard because if I want to, I have to go so far over that I feel like I'm going to fall over the keyboard to see where those jacks are. So either I have to do that or walk around to see what I've got. Okay. Now the third thing has to do with that location of the jacks, and that's the USB thumb drive. I would have preferred that USB thumb drive to be up front here, like where the headphone jacks are, because you want to take that USB, maybe plug that into a computer, read that in, and put it right back in. But instead, it's a little bit more of a hassle to walk behind and put the USB connector in and out all the time. So that's number 3. Number 4, which I've already gone through earlier in the video, is the half damper pedal, the polarity. You cannot switch that with the display or any of the menus. So either you're stuck buying something like a Roland half damper, or you're kind of stuck. All right. And the last thing, which is probably not going to be a deal breaker for most people, it's not really a deal breaker for me, but it would have been nice if instead of 24 volts DC input here, they would have chosen something a little bit more standard, like 9, 12, 15, maybe even 18 volts. Because if they did that, then I can use something like the Rev Power external power supply and power this somewhere where I don't have AC mains. Somewhere like a beach or a mountain or a rave or a backyard even. And I could use that with portable battery operated keyboard amp like the Roland KC110 or the Roland Cube EX, Street Cube EX. But 24 volts, that's it's going to be hard pressed to find an external power supply, portable, that'll provide you 24 volts. So again, none of those 5 things are deal breakers, but it would have been nice if it would be done a little bit differently. So that pretty much wraps it up for the overview of what this can do, and it is very impressive. If you haven't tried one, they are in the United States now. They're in North America, so I would suggest you get over to your local store and try one of these out. And if not, it may be worth getting one just to try for yourself. Most places will let you keep it for like 30 days and then you can send it back or whatever. But I think if you try this, you probably are not going to send it back. There's so much more to this. I barely covered the surface, but I hope this has been a good intro for you. Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.